woo, wee woo. Emergency podcast time. It's actually not even that much of an emergency, but we figured there's been enough news in the week with firing of the offensive coordinator John Morton, press conference from Brad Holmes, plus a couple candidates to talk about that we wanted to get in a midweek podcast. Unfortunately, Miko couldn't make it tonight, but I believe he might give his thoughts on some of these topics over on our YouTube page later in the week. So make sure to go to youtube.com/Pride of Detroit to get that. But hey, my name's Jeremy Reisman. I am acting as interim PODcast host right now. You can find me at Detroit Online on Twitter. But let me throw to one of our two co-hosts for this emergency POD cast. He is the senior editor at Pride of Detroit. You can find him at Ryan_POD. It's Ryan Matthews. Ryan, how we doing tonight?
Might I add, you're doing a good job, Jeremy, in the interim role.
You. Well, it's easy when I throw it to you because I'm just like right there in my first bite comfort zone here.
Yeah, you're the Dick Duran of this podcast. Interim right now, you have a chance in the future to get another head coaching job.
Ooh, interesting. We'll talk about another interim quarterbacks coach here in the second segment here. But before we do any of that, let me bring in our third co-host of the Emergency POD cast. You know him as the offseason general manager of Pride of Detroit.com. I almost said of Detroit Lions. I almost gave you a big promotion there. He is also the machine, and you can find him at Erik Schlitt on Twitter. It's Erik Schlitt. Erik, good evening.
Hey, buddy. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm good. There is part of me that feels a little bit of weight off my shoulders. I've come back from Allen Park for the last time until draft week, like something like that. I mean, it's gonna be a while before I walk in that building again. But that's because we just got done with Brad Holmes's end of season press conference. A lot of expectations going into that press conference. I'm not sure how many of those expectations were met, but I'll throw it to you guys first. And I'll go to you first, Ryan. What was kind of like one or two of your major takeaways from what Brad Holmes had to say tonight?
I think I really appreciated the way that he opened up his press conference. I think there was a lot of accountability. You could even kind of sense it in the tremor in his voice that he was speaking with a lot of passion. And I think having that level of accountability is something that's consistent with what we've expected from this regime, what we've expected of Dan Campbell, what we've expected of Brad Holmes. And he came out and he owned up to it. Like, you know, I know later in the press conference, he said he would give himself an F2 because the Lions aren't playing football. And, you know, I think maybe it probably irked him that he was having this press conference on January 8th, right? You know, he probably wasn't expecting to be having it so soon. So I think off the top, I really appreciated the candor and I appreciated his level of accountability in his role in the Lions, you know, finishing 9-8 and not really meeting expectations. I think that was one of my bigger takeaways. And then there's a lot that we're obviously going to get to, but for Brad Holmes himself, I think that was my big takeaway.
Yeah, you know, for people to have the expectation that he was going to come out and say, yeah, I didn't do enough for the offensive line, or I didn't do enough to get an edge rusher, and get into those like nitty gritty kind of details of that. I think a lot of people were looking for him to take ownership of. I don't think that was really a realistic expectation. You know, he did show, like you said, a little bit more candor than what we've seen in the past. That
when it came to like specific players, right?
Yeah. And just overall, I think I agree with you. I think his humility was more on point. You know, he comes off a draft class where he's taking, you know, 4 Pro Bowlers and he's walking around with a little bit more bravado, right? And then now he's coming off a season where they didn't make the playoffs and he responded accordingly. He's got this aura around him that people think he's this, you know, kind of arrogant guy who, you know, thinks of himself as almost infallible. Whereas Dan is this, you know, Dan falls on the sword every week. Right. And so the hard part with Brad's job is we only talk to him like 2-3 times a year. Yeah. And we don't see him on a weekly basis. And we don't see the moves that he makes on a weekly basis either, because it's all behind the scenes. With Dan, we see the results of what he's doing every week. And so it's easy to like take accountability when it's just out there for the public. For Brad, I think he illustrated this a couple of times during his presser, that the front office is working. And just because something didn't come together doesn't mean they weren't trying to get something happen. Sometimes it was the other team, sometimes it was the player, or there were a variety of things that can go wrong behind the scenes that you don't get to see. And I thought he did a good job of, illustrating that. Whereas, I don't know if some of the media members necessarily processed what he was trying to say with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is going to be a wholly unsatisfying, and like the answers where he's like, yeah, we tried, just didn't happen. I don't think that is going to be a satisfactory answer for people, not necessarily looking for blood, but looking for a little bit more explanation. Like, okay, does that mean, this guy was too expensive? Did that mean, the guy that you wanted wasn't truly available? And listen, I know Brad is never going to, like you said, Erik, like expecting him to divulge all those details is unrealistic. Most general managers don't do it. I don't even know if you can, like, is it tampering to like say like, oh yeah, we were involved in the Micah Parsons trade, but we didn't.
Yeah, that'd be tampering.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Like that, I think you can't. And to be clear, I'm not saying the Lions were involved in the Micah Parsons trade. I'm just theoretically speaking. But the accountability stuff is a little bit hard for me too, because when he was asked, okay, like what's something you messed up on, wouldn't give an answer. And I'm just like, that's I don't even know if that's real accountability. That's just you saying the words, I didn't do enough. But if you can't come up with an idea, or you refuse to on grounds of competitive advantage, like I don't buy that.
It could be could it be him not wanting to throw people under the bus as well?
I mean, certainly that could be part of it. Like you don't want to say, you know what, we didn't do more at center because we thought Graham was a better football player. Like you're not going to say that, of course, right?
Right. Exactly. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Right.
Like I think people, the common theme that I heard was people wanting him to come out and say, I didn't invest enough in the interior offensive line, when it was like, hey, well, he took a second round draft pick and then took another draft pick on day 3 to try. And then he signed more guys than normal. Right. Didn't just re-sign guys. He brought in outside guys as well to try and compete. So it's at the same time, he's got to.
I still think there's a way to talk around it. Like just say like, hey, you know what?
Sure.
I think maybe I could have done a better job with the offensive line. That's it.
But
that's all you need to say.
Okay.
Like that's not specific enough where you're calling out specific players. I mean, John Morton didn't seem to have any problem throwing the offensive line under the bus, but of course he's not here anymore, so maybe that's why.
I mean, but that's also that's also what I'm getting at though. Like you're saying, I just want a little bit more, but would that satisfy those looking for blood? Absolutely not. Right?
No, but it satisfied me for a little bit more. I'd like to know some specifics about what he thinks he did wrong, because, and like maybe it's not even maybe it's not even saying what you did wrong. It's telling me what you're going to change. Because that's, I mean, I know it's kind of the same thing. Like, but if you frame it in a way of like, I need to do a better job doing this. I needed like, this is what I learned from the Frank Ragnow situation. This is what I learned at Edge. We didn't really get any answers of that. And I think for people thinking that Brad Holmes has not done a particularly good job over the past, let's say 2 drafts, I don't get a sense that anything he said today would make it feel like he's going to change or learn or anything that like that, other than the fact that Brad Holmes is saying like, yes, I've learned some things. Yes, we need to alter. But providing no specifics leaves that kind of like a hollow promise.
I think that there was some moments though in his press conference that he did address, like there's going to be a lot of inward looking. There's going to be a lot of addressing our processes and evaluating our processes when it comes to building a roster. So there was some of that. There was some of him skirting it. There was a lot of Brad Holmes saying fair question to a lot of things. Right. And then not so much answering the question in the way that I think, to your guys' point that, the fans weren't necessarily going to get the answers that they were looking for. But I think a question that really speaks to that, and maybe the one question that a lot of people had on their mind was the edge position. And I think that the answer to that question is going to be both wholly unfulfilling to people
Yeah.
who are hoping that the Lions do something else, because I know he was asked, on what he learned from his approach at the edge position last year that can help him find a guy to play opposite Aiden Hutchinson. And he said, quote, yeah, I mean, it would be the same approach that we took last year in terms of the position wasn't ignored in the draft. It just didn't come together like how we would have liked it to be from a draft standpoint. And then he complimented Al-Qadim Muhammad, where I think when you're Brad Holmes and you're in that spot, how transparent are you going to be and many of the other questions were about how aggressive do you need to change your approach?
Right.
Is he going to drive the price up for Al-Qadim Muhammad and also put the emphasis that they're going to be aggressive and go out and get a guy in the draft at edge where, Erik, you can't make those guarantees on January 8th. And you can't
Right.
put yourself at that disadvantage in terms of maybe potentially renegotiating with a guy like Al-Qadim Muhammad.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of points where Brad tends to be misunderstood in what he's trying to say versus the question that's being asked.
We're
Right?
good, right?
Right. Right. Like a lot of the questions were basically trying to get him to say, yes, yes, we want to invest in the edge. Like that was like there were multiple questions saying, yes, we want to, yes, I made a mistake by not doing enough on the edge. Yes, we're going to increase that investment next year. That's the multiple questions like that. Sometimes even the exact same question repeated twice. But we had, we saw a lot of that. And with Brad tends, when he doesn't want to like just ignore that question, he tends to refocus in like a different direction. Like, yes, we had a good process. The process didn't play out the way we wanted, but that doesn't mean we weren't trying to be aggressive like what you're asking me for. It just didn't work out that we were able to be aggressive. And so he tries to like skirt around it, but I think he sometimes doesn't land the plane where they want, where that on the same runway where the question was asked, right? It's like he gets his answer in the way he wants it, but and he's kind of answering the question, but not as directly, and so it lends itself to interpretation and a lot of times misinterpretation.
I guess my biggest and concern isn't even the word for it. It's more like I think the thing that's going to be talked about most from this press conference is again like I tried. Like we're trying. It's we're trying to be aggressive. We're trying to add edge. We're trying to add offensive line help. And I know that's in general not going to go over particularly well because it's not just your job to try. Like no one is sitting here thinking you're sitting on your hands during the trade deadline, right? And everyone knows you're going out there and you're trying to make moves. Every team is. It doesn't excuse it though, right? Like you need to be able to carry it over the finish line. There are other teams that are making trades. What is the thing that's stopping you? Again, a little bit of transparency there I think would be helpful because again, I don't think anyone's going out there and saying like, Brad's just I shouldn't say that because a lot of people think that he thought we're good, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've never
one of the most
thought,
common
right.
responses I get on a date that even now,
Yes,
and even all the time people misinterpret that quote.
Right. But I do think there's a level of criticism or curiosity or whatever when Brad Holmes just says, yeah, we're trying and nothing comes of it. But it's, I don't know. Like I go back and forth on this too, because it's not like Brad Holmes has never done anything, right? He did trade at the trade deadline a year ago. He trades up all the freaking time in the draft. As much as I hate it, that is an aggressive move, right? That is aggression to a T. Doing what he did for Isaac Tislaw is aggression. It might not be the aggression that you wanted, but it's aggression. And so I've never really questioned his ability to at least try. I guess the frustrating part for Lions fans is it doesn't seem to be coming in the places that they in particular want, whether it's edge or offensive line and things of that nature. So again, I think that's going to be the part of the press conference that annoys the most people.
Can I tell you the part of the press conference that kind of annoyed me? It was the
Sure.
second question. It was his response to the second question, which I think was the question that he maybe handled the worst when it came to commenting on the aggressiveness.
Hmm.
And he because the question was like, in coming short of the playoffs, will that change your level of aggressive decision making in free agency at the trade deadline? And he kind of just reminded us like, I work really hard.
Right.
Like I work really hard. He was like, one of you guys called me at the trade deadline and asked me like, did you talk to anybody? He's like, I wasn't offended, but I think my response is, well, why are you asking me now? Well, we're asking you now because it's the NFL trade deadline.
Right. That was a very weird tangent that he went on. I don't quite
Yeah.
understand why he did.
He was like, well, you don't talk to me about it back in October, September, or August. And it's like, to Eric's point, well, we talk to you like 3 times a year, Brad Holmes. And also, there were a lot of people asking you about Zadarius Smith in August. Um, and I don't know, like, I think that was the only part of the press conference where I felt I could sense Brad getting some of that defensiveness that he
Right.
gets with the media. Because it was almost like, maybe he's just exhausted. Like to your point, right? Like you have all these people questioning if he's being aggressive enough. And I think that's what it boils down to. And that's some of the stuff I've seen from some people who like, I'll listen to their opinions on Twitter, Eric, is that there's people who are asking now, like, okay, if the line to be aggressive in player acquisition is here and Brad's just coming here, like, does he need to do like what the Eagles did and like just like
Mhm.
cough up like more draft capital to get a Jalen Phillips, or like does he need to? It's funny enough, like later in the press conference, he's like, "Well, you can get creative with like
Mhm.
third round picks, and you can find ways to like trade future picks and stuff." I think a lot of people will look at that and say, "Well, then do that to get the guy that we want you to get."
Not Jeremy, but but like I do find it interesting that because I tend to view Brad as an aggressive GM, but I also think he's more conservative when it's not the 3 days of the NFL draft than he is during the NFL draft.
Right.
Mhm.
Because he is one of the most aggressive GMs during the draft itself. And so when people were including like, are you going to be more aggressive in the NFL draft? Like one person
One
asked
report.
if he would trade up in the, and I'm like, he trades up every single draft, man.
I almost dove at that person. It's like, no, don't tell him to do it more.
I'm like, he just gave up a couple third rounders for Tesla, and like everyone hated that move. And now you're saying he's not doing enough. Okay, I digress. Um, Here's the thing: the way that I view Brad's aggressiveness, he could take the same process from year to year to year and have it not work out in year one and not work out in year two, and then in year three it work out, and then people be like, oh my gosh, Brad has completely changed his philosophy and his aggressiveness, and now he's acquired this aggressive move like the Eagles did, right? But I don't know. We don't know if he's being aggressive or equally aggressive from year to year to year, and it's just not panning out,
Right.
or what the situation is. Because and so when he says something along the lines of, "I'm going to take the same approach to trying to fix defensive end that I did last year," that could mean it would net the result that people want,
Right.
because we don't know what didn't come to fruition last year,
Right.
and right. So
Yeah,
that's where I get.
He basically said they tried to trade up in the last year's draft at some point to get an edge, and it didn't happen,
Yeah.
which is
'Cause
what everybody wanted.
Right. Takes two,
Right.
right? Like, and
But
they ended up trading up a couple different points to get guys that they wanted. Tate was a trade up. It was a minor trade up, but it was a trade up, right?
Right.
So
But I think that's the part where if he could just be a little bit more specific, it would help, because on one end he's saying like, yep, I found some things I need to change. Yep, we need to alter our game plan a little bit, but also I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to do the same here. I'm not going to change my approach here. And so it's again, like, it's just like, okay, so what are you changing? Let us know. And I get there is a little bit of that competitive advantage.
competitive
stuff where, like,
advantage.
you don't want to go out there and say, yeah, we're going to draft a center this year. Okay, I get it. No one expect you to say that, but he did say that is
We're
a
gonna have to
position
get some.
we're
We're gonna have to get it one
to-
way or another.
Yes, and he did mention
Yeah.
trade, which is something that I might be a little bit more interested in. Use draft pick on an established talent. I do want to dive into some of the more specific things. The one that I wrote a specific article about because it was kind of shocking how open and honest he was about it was the David Montgomery stuff, where he was just asked outright, hey, is David Montgomery still part of your future plans? And he basically more or less said, we like him, we want him here, but we understand it was a really tough year for him, and we just want to do what's best for him, and we want him to make sure he's in a place where he's utilized properly. Or utilized, that's not what he said, because that would...
where his skill set can be utilized, yeah. A situation where his skill set can be utilized.
Right.
Which is...
And I don't know.
Eye-opening still.
Yes. If I'm reading between the lines here, but that kind of sounds to me like that exit interview didn't go particularly well with David Montgomery, and David Montgomery may have expressed some desire to get out. Is that?
Well, you might have said that he. It sounds like he might have expressed those exact words because he repeated that phrase pretty close to the same way twice, right? So. The way I get how people or most people are aligning themselves to that he's probably gone. I kind of took a slightly different read that, hey, I'm just trying to do what's best for our player. And, sure. But I do agree there was probably some friction. The thing in my mind though, is he probably saw he was probably going to see a lower amount of snaps. His snaps were probably going to be naturally reduced, right? But the fact that they were playing behind in a lot of games reduced his snaps even further. Yep. And so if you are David Montgomery and you're like, hey, I don't like getting my snaps reduced at all, I want a better situation, I get that. But if you're David Montgomery saying, I don't like how the results happened, the Lions can say, well, we don't expect to be behind a lot anymore, right? And so hopefully that is what can correct it. But obviously there is something going on behind the scenes, and he was very honest. But I didn't take it as a he's out the door, but I took it as we're feeling things out right now.
What about you, Ryan? Is Dave Montgomery gone? Put a percentage on it.
I think it's higher than before this press conference for sure. Sure. I agree with what you guys are saying. I think ultimately, I agree that with the Lions trailing in so many situations this year, there was less opportunity for David Montgomery, but there was just less opportunities for David Montgomery from the Lions offense can't stay on the field standpoint as well. Like there were a lot of 3 and outs. There were a lot of, second and long, third and long situations where it doesn't make too much sense to have David Montgomery on the field. So just by way of their offense and not being as successful in terms of down by down basis, you got less David Montgomery. So I agree with you, Erik, that they could point and say, if we clean stuff up next year and our offense is just more resembling the offense that you were a part of for the past couple of seasons in 23 and 24, we're going to be just fine. And there's going to be, that situation that Brad Holmes says he deserves to be in a situation where his skill set can be utilized. That place is still here to me, Jeremy. But if I'm David Montgomery, if there's another opportunity, maybe I want to go there.
Right. And I think the Lions will use this offseason, use the next month or two here to try to convince David Montgomery of all of that he's still valued in this building. I mean, Brad Holmes said it as much, like they want him here, but they're going to have to try and be able to convince him that that opportunity is still here, that he will still get back to the touches he was getting last year. They still value him, I'm sure, in short yardage situations and beyond that. He's more than that. The question is, one, are the Lions willing to keep him at his price? Which I think the answer is probably yes. 2, is David Montgomery going... I guess what does David Montgomery value? Because if they trade him or cut him, he could end up on a real crappy team. And he's getting towards the end of his career, right? Like, for a running back, I hate to say that about a 28, 29-year-old, but you're getting towards the end of your career as a running back. And so is opportunity as important as the chance at a ring? Is opportunity as important as money? What is what are those things that you value at this point in his career? And I think he has a chance at a championship here. I think he obviously has a really tight relationship with Jameer, probably with the coaching staff as well. So I don't think he's gone 100%, but man, I don't think it could be much clearer that there's some things that both sides have to work out here if it is going to stay here in Detroit.
There's a very real version of 2026, Erik, where there isn't a David Montgomery in Detroit.
Well, let's play devil's advocate on that. If you're Brad Holmes and you're worried about your cap, the three players who can generate the most available space for you by cutting them are Taylor Decker, Graham Glasgow, and David Montgomery.
Really?
Those are the three guys.
Like $4 million?
He would free up $3.5 million, which would be the third most of the available guys.
So they don't have a ton of wiggle room there. The way they're going to make all their cap space this year is restructuring.
Yeah. But like if Decker retires, you can free up money in a different way. If Graham retires, you free up money in a different way. Right. But if you're talking about an outright cut, it's the two potential retirees, and then David is the next is number 3. Number 4 is Jack Fox, but that's not going to happen. Right?
You never punt, do it.
What a message that would send.
But yeah, look, I also think not working in David's favor is the fact that the NFL has proven when you're running a 2-back system, you can get a back on day 3 that can contribute as a RB2. Well, you look at this class. Now, look, I haven't really dug into this class because of, Dave Montgomery's on a roster. And so, but I've looked at a couple of guys, but kind of like the rankings I'm looking at, there might be 5 guys that go on in the first 100 picks, right? That's pretty standard nowadays. And then of the top 10, I'd say half of them are probably David's size. And so like if you could get a top 10 running back that matches his style and maybe get him on day 3 with a 4th or a 5th round pick. And then, you're getting a massive price reduction on that. And if he's hinting at wanting to go somewhere and you can move that contract and free up some money, it could be in the Lions' best interest. And now
net a 6th round pick or whatever it would take.
I'm saying this as a person who absolutely loves David Montgomery, and I don't want to see him leave. But I'm saying if I'm worried about my money and he's already hinting that he wants to go, there's a way
you can make it mutually beneficial, even if it's not the thing you want to do.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like the idea, but I understand it. If they want to go, you can find
and they have enough respect for the guy, as they do most people in their locker room, that if he wants out, if he wants a trade request, and they're
not going to keep anyone here.
They clearly understand why. They're going to do the player right, especially at the point in his career where, like I said, he's near the tail end. You don't want to hold a guy hostage and have him only carry, 60% of what he's capable of carrying. Yeah, I think you would do right by the player, but hopefully they can work something out, because I'm with you. I'd rather not have to fill a hole that isn't a hole at this point. 2 more things I want to get to. One is offensive tackle, because we got a lot there. Part of it was like, hey, can what happened with Frank help you with what may or may not happen with Taylor? And then he was also asked about Giovanni Manu. Kind of the story on Gio seems to be like, well, I'm not ready to say he is or isn't ready to compete for a starting left tackle job. We kind of have to work that out. But the one thing he said is like, we're not going to go into 2026 where he's our assumed starter. We know we need to get some help there. And I that's something I wanted to hear. Not that it was, obvious to say, but I don't know. I guess what were your overall takes on how you think they're going to approach that left tackle position this offseason?
Go ahead, Erik.
Well, for me, I agree. Gio's not ready. If he would have said, yeah, we think Gio's at a position where he could succeed Decker, that would have raised some pretty massive red flags for me. Um, but it doesn't really change a whole lot of what I kind of envisioned for this team, anyways. A first round pick as a offensive lineman, including tackle, certainly seems like it's on the table, whether Decker retires or not. They tried the succession plan of drafting a guy a couple years out and then developing him based on his traits. Now you probably are, since that didn't work out. So now it tells you, hey, I probably got to be a little bit more aggressive. Maybe use one of, I have 2 picks in the top 50. I got to use one of them. If Decker's going to stay, maybe I can work to the that pick 50 instead of pick 17. But a tackle has to come in the draft this year. It unless they want to invest in somebody in free agency, which seems a bit out of character for what they're trying to do. It surely seems like a tackle is going to be a priority.
Yeah, and I thought it was pretty illuminating if we tie this into what he talked about when it came to Frank's retirement. And that was one of the big things, Jeremy, that I know that we talked about on the podcast was how is Brad going to handle this? Like, is he going to give an actual date? Is he and he did. He was like, it was after the draft. He was like, it was after the draft that we found out, but he was also very quick to say, well, there were breadcrumbs and and he goes, we still prepared for it because we didn't know which way it was going to tip, right? And I think that speaks to like our feelings here that if you look at what the Lions did in the draft when it came to the offensive line position, it was Tate Ratledge, it was Miles Frazier. They drafted the interior guys. They had the hope, and Brad highlighted how they envisioned Tate, playing center, and he did at OTAs, and he said he got valuable reps, and the quote unquote, he uses this one a lot, but a lot of he wasn't a fish out of water. Maybe that's the way to go, but I still think that they're going to be aggressive. Like he talked about it. He used the word urgent, right?
Yeah.
He's like, not only will it have to be urgent this offseason, but like we've been urgent in the past about it. Do you think that they've been urgent enough though? Like it's the same thing as the trading and being aggressive. Like, okay, like you can say that, but you're not getting there. Like, are you being urgent enough? Are you being aggressive enough?
Yeah. I mean, there must be some like trade offers on the cutting room floor if he considers what they did urgent, because he did draft Miles Frazier. Yeah, he did draft Christian Mahogany. Yeah, those are day 3 picks. That's not urgency. That's like, okay, we like these guys, but we don't like them in the first or second day of the draft.
Isaac Taslaw is urgency, right?
Right. Yeah. Yes. And so like, yeah, maybe they tried a little bit harder at center, or maybe they tried a little bit harder earlier, and maybe they read my 2024 article about drafting Zach Frazier that I forgot that I wrote until today.
The wrong Frazier.
But again, yeah, I think you laid it out there perfectly. It's like, okay, you're trying, but you either didn't try hard enough, or you expected your singles to be home runs, to make a baseball analogy that I'm sure he'd appreciate.
He knocked that one out of the park. Good job.
The last thing I want to talk about is the safety situation. We didn't get a lot of insight necessarily on like the health of Kirby Joseph or Brian Branch, and most of the answers to questions about them. And, he was asked whether they knew about Brian Branch's injury, and Kirby Joseph's knee injury, and when they knew about it, and did they know about it before the extension, and should they have? And Brad was basically like, I mean, in an ideal world, but like he went through the normal physicals that we do, and we didn't see it. Which I don't know, like maybe that's something on your medical staff, but I don't know anything about what a physical is and what they could have seen. So I feel like that's just kind of a non-issue, non-story. I don't think there's controversy there. But anyways, what's your opinion on what the Lions will do at that safety position after hearing Brad Holmes talk about it today?
I'll let you go, Ryan. I don't think mine's changed much.
I'm not sure. I think the one thing that I'm hung up on though is maybe there is something to be said about the process because Levi Onwuzurike signed a contract and oopsie, he's got an ACL tear. And I that's a recent one in memory where it's like, oh,
Sure.
okay, maybe not. Um, I do think that wholeheartedly though, like Brad is being very honest and upfront, even to the point where it's like, okay, if you're gonna press me on this and ask me, would we have? Yeah, of course not. Like that wouldn't have happened. Like Kirby wouldn't have got the contract. Um, I don't know. I want to hear what you have to say, Eric, but I just wanted to point that one thing out where it's like I don't know, maybe there is a little bit of a trend here when it comes to like injuries and maybe ignoring things or not ignoring things, but is our process exhaustive enough?
Hmm. The I don't want to speak too much out of turn with Levi. I can tell you that there's a reason why that wasn't identified, though, and they found out the reason after the fact. But and so the process to finding injuries, I think, is always challenging, and it's
Oh
something
yeah.
that like I just don't think we don't we just aren't ever going to know enough, right? We're just not.
Yeah.
Like as much as those that series of questions were there was designed to try and uncover, when they, when did they know and what did they know, and you know
Being a doctor is
you're
hard. That's why you have to go to school for 7 years to do it. Like it's not easy. Like I agree. Like it's that much is to be said.
yeah, the Levi one is really, it's one of the more unusual ones that I've ever heard. But as far as the safety position goes, I still think the fact that Brad was saying, Kirby was close to coming back. He was trying, he was getting better, he was improving, but he just wasn't quite there. It does lend itself to me thinking that they're hoping with an off season of rest
Yeah.
that he can get back to a point where he was and where he wanted to be and where he was progressing towards, but just couldn't quite get over this
Right. Because there was
hump
that
for whatever.
urgency to get back on the field, right? Where like they kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing, like he was training to get on the field rather than resting.
Right.
Hmm.
Which is, it's hard to do. Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm going in thinking, okay, they, they're expecting Kirby. Um, they're expecting Thomas Harper, who's
Yeah.
under contract, to be able to fill maybe even just a interim role, if you will. And then with Branch, he didn't really address the Branch stuff too much, but in general, we've seen players recover from Achilles injuries faster and faster and faster every year, but they're going to want to have some sort of plan in place if Branch isn't able to hit that a timeline or isn't able to be at the level that he was. So does that mean they're going to draft another safety and try and build depth? Does that mean Dan Jackson is going to return and have a bigger role? I'm sure they're going to be hoping for that, but I think it keeps safety on the table. But I also think they could go a few different routes. Like they could try and get a veteran in to buy him some time. They could try and maybe bring back Avante Maddox and
Yeah.
give them some time. They could address it in the draft, and then depending on how aggressive you are and what that safety's range is, you could maybe use them in nickel, and then you could go back to your old kind of three safety sets. And then if you're going to shift to more zone, then there's value in having a third safety if you have more zone concepts next year. And so there's a few different ways they can handle it, but I don't think they feel as pressed at safety
Yeah.
as they do at like offensive, probably more than one spot on the offensive line and maybe even edge.
Yeah, that's kind of what my overall sense was because he did go out and he praised Thomas Harper and he praised Avante Maddox. He oddly praised Erik Hallett, who's no longer on the team. And
He had
so
one good game.
that gives me the sense that not that they're happy and satisfied with where they're at, but it's not like this urgent need. And he basically kind of concluded that answer saying, it's still a position, so we're going to address it. We're not going to ignore it because we don't ignore anything here, right? BPA. Go get the best player out there, and if it's a safety, they'll draft a safety, I guess. All right, let's take a break there. When we come back, we're going to talk offensive coordinator stuff. We're going to talk about the decision to fire John Morton. We're going to talk about the 2 candidates that are out there and maybe some candidates that haven't been reported as the Lions are interested in them. And we'll take care of all that when we come back here on the Emergency Podcast. We'll be right back. Hey, Mike, if you continue to make comments like that on YouTube, I'm just going to block you. You're trying to stir up stuff, and I'm not going to take the bait. So, all right, let me get to some alerts here. No Fissy, thank you for the follow on Twitch. LJ, thank you for the 68 months. Thank you, says GM Talk on my Taylor Decker anniversary. LFG, 68 months. Nice. Zern Baby Zern, 53 months, says emergency. Okay, I exaggerate. It's not really an emergency. But it felt like we needed a midweek podcast, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the encouragement, guys. Bayermo. Thank you for the 32 months through a bunch of...
I didn't know he was actually asking us. I thought it was just general.
It felt rhetorical. Yeah.
Beatty, thank you for the 24 months, says hire McDaniel. Nick the Greek 100 bit says Les Snead taught Brad Holmes an old voodoo Super Bowl charm. You? What? Something got cut off there, I think. Nick the Greek 100 bits. Oh, the second 100 bits finishes the back half of this. Says, so let me read the whole thing in cahoots here. Les Snead taught Brad Holmes an old voodoo Super Bowl charm. You take a shot of rum in front of a magical crocodile skull and waste at least 5 third-round picks. Ritual sacrifice.
Oh, I thought it was just you had to trade a former first-round quarterback for another quarterback and include draft picks with it.
Yeah? So what's that going to be? Who are we trading for? Lamar? Starting everything anew in Baltimore?
Tua.
God. Oh, so your Mike McDaniels brings Tua over? Is that what you're suggesting?
Oh, please, for heavens, no. We don't need a beans for brain quarterback.
Wow, Jesus. Detroit Dennis, thank you for the 16 months. Subscribed on Twitch, says, I still trust the people that took us to an NFC championship game and then a 15-2 season. Yeah, those people probably aren't terrible at their jobs, as much as people might want to think so right now. Detroit fan, thank you for subscribing on YouTube. Boof Gertz, thank you for 23 months. Your name gets me every single time. 100 bits more from Nick the Greek says, every time Brad Holmes gives an example of media coverage of this team, he chooses to paraphrase or quote the most deranged attention-seeking maniacs covering the team. Do you guys think he reads any of the actual good coverage? Has he never read a well-written piece of analysis?
Who has Brad Holmes' phone number?
I'm sure there's a lot of people that do, but
okay.
It is very funny to me that he brought up that is by far the best moment from the press conference where he's just like, someone called me at the trade deadline and I wasn't offended by it. I'm like, okay, but you are bringing it up to defend yourself.
It sounds like you might be offended by it.
I don't know. It was a very weird point of the presser.
Sorry, guys. I'm embarrassed.
Oh, it was you? Oh, gosh, it was you.
Oh, no, we've been talking about Erik. First thing I said when I got this Zoom, I was like, who is the idiot?
You know what? It's not fair. Erik was just like, he really had to go pick up his kids at 4 with the trade deadline, and so he just wanted a heads up. Like, Can you just tell me if you made a move so that I know if I have to be typing for my car? Nick the Greek, another 100 bits, says poor Erik keeps having to feign enthusiasm over Sione Vaki.
Hey, I like Sione had a tough year with his injuries, but I still think there's a lot of potential. Hey, he's three.
But how do you know if there's any potential to run? He had one carry this year.
No, he played a little bit last year.
Yeah, remember?
And I saw a little bit in college.
When he lost his face mask against the Chiefs in the preseason. He's a hard runner.
I'm not advocating for him to be RB2. I want to be clear about that. Yeah. I like what he can do. But if Montgomery is no longer, then you are acquiring an RB2, right? Like,
that was the question I was going to ask you guys.
All I heard was David Montgomery's equals Sione Vaki. That's what I heard you say.
Dude, I can like guys without being like completely like have the wool pulled over my eyes. I mean, just because I liked someone doesn't mean I think they should start.
Erik's excuse is that maybe your internet cut out and you didn't hear him right as he was talking about Sione Vaki.
You can't use that excuse anymore. The internet's not ever cutting out again.
This is smooth sailing.
I keep looking and like the drop frame 0% is like it's greatest thing I've ever seen in my life.
That's great. That's awesome. That was the question I was going to ask you guys about Montgomery though. And I think I already got my answer, but it was just like, well, if they move on from Montgomery, I know from your standpoint, Jeremy, like you say, well, I don't want you to just create a hole that you have to go fill again.
Right.
But it's like, do you think you could get a guy, 6th, 7th round, like that late where it's like, I mean, he would compete, but I would almost I'd want to like expect more from Vaki. If it's just like, okay, well, you traded up to get a special teams ace in 2024. That's what we did.
I'm just
Dave Fipp has Brad Holmes' phone number.
You know what's happening is I'm slowly sliding back into running backs don't matter. Like I'm slowly just get a 7th round winner. Just get your Kyle Monangai and throw him out there. Who cares? The running backs are a dime a dozen.
He just apologized for this, Erik.
I know it was all lies apparently.
Listen, I had to do it. I was compulsed to do it.
You were
forced.
You were bribed with donations to do it.
That's right.
You did it for people.
And I did it as earnestly as I physically could. That doesn't mean it was earnest.
You have your SAG card, don't you?
That's right.
You say this as Mississippi running back just ran a 73-yarder touchdown.
There you go. Draft him in the 7th.
No, I don't even know. No, who you want's the Miami running back. That's a Montgomery clone in a lot of ways.
The 7th? Can I get him in the 7th?
I would say 4th.
Nope.
Maybe
deal.
5th.
No deal.
Well, listen.
Monangai was a 7th round pick. Go do that. It's easy. It's easy to get 1B running backs in the 7th. Hey. Everyone does it.
Erik, just
I'm gonna look up.
Are you saying Brad Holmes isn't as good as Ryan Poles?
Oh, shut your mouth! Blasphemy.
Just for the content in a very Darren Rovell stance, I would love to see the Lions trade up and draft Jeremiah Love and see Jeremy's head spin off his body.
Who is that?
I've been there. I've seen it. I saw that happen in person.
Oh, is this another running back?
He's gonna probably go in the top 5. Yeah.
He's gonna be. It was when they drafted Jameer. Like I thought he was gonna have a heart attack.
Well, no. Hold on. Let's be fair to the moment. He traded down before that. That is like
you were super excited.
That's
and then they drafted him
before.
Everyone turned and looked at you. I mean, the entire press room. Like, I remember Colton, who was like right in front of us, turned and then just looked at you.